Welcome back, team. I many apologies for the technical difficulties that we had. One of the wonderful things about technology is that it can overheat. We don't want to have like a lithium fire up in here. That would be a bit of a problem. So we've got some cooling systems going on. So I'm sure we should be fine. Should be no problem. So I found out what it was, what we were doing, and it went through that video. Our team have been sent the video, and it was effectively of a good haka being done onto the state highway. So it was done very well, organised. No one got hurt. No drama happened at all as it went through. So yeah, well done for that crew for doing that. Reminds me a lot about the when we had the Māori Party protest on the bridge when they were organising it as well. I think what that team are doing, I think they're trying to emulate the Great Hikui of, I think it was 1974 perhaps. Not I apologise, I don't remember, but all I remember is the iconic picture of Dame Tina Cooper who walked in that as well. So we're here, we're in Auckland, we're going past Mount Wellington, and we are moving towards the Domain. Now, I just want to see if I can remember bringing it up because I believe we had a great comment just before asking about or put it out there that the bill is opposed to Māori livelihood, Māori principles, the principles of Te Ao Māori, not the principles of the treaty. And I think it was the rights there. You got some two tangata teams have just gone past a little bit, so the bikes are already pretty much down there, I believe. I am now I'm near the rear section, and that's just because I thought I'd be in the best position to be able to see whatever was going on, but it turns out the buses couldn't go up the hill very fast. So it effectively it sort of stymied that idea, but no problem, not a worry, we're cruising along anyway. So to discuss what our commentator said or asked about, yeah, like I said before, Te Ao Māori, it depends on which region that you're in. That's where the Te Ao Māori, the tikanga, the rawa for each environment, it's set by those areas. I remember going to some marae when I was doing some training there, and I could leave my shoes on. In fact, I was told, leave your shoes on, come into the marae. I've been on some where you sit amongst the mana whenua, or the hosts. I've been on one where you've been segregated by male female, as in male on one side, female on the other side. So it depends on the region that you're in. It really does. So there is no such thing as what the academics like calling Te Ao Māori or tikanga Māori. There are a few similarities. For example, the idea of wofiri and where haka is put, and that's because in times the iwi were notoriously warlike. Like our people were very much warlike, a very warrior culture. And the ideas of wofiri was to be able to meet in very tentative circumstances. The haka was there, and even the woman behind the men, it's not misogynistic. In fact, it's protective of women and children, because if there was a sudden attack, the men would be able to stand and defend their women and children, and then they'll cap off that way. So, yeah, I'd say that. In terms of livelihood, no. And where I got cut off last time, I was talking about where Māori are most successful. Māori are most successful not in New Zealand. It's not New Zealand. It's Australia. And I'm trying to remember the study I read of. So I apologize. I've got to keep an eye out for the traffic and everything as well. But it's effectively, I think it was something like at least $27,000 on average over Māori here, Māori whānau here. But I'll have to check up on my records. That might be going back before lockdown sort of stage. So financially, economically, which are different, financially and economically, as well as even family structure-wise, the Māori family does better over in Australia than they do here. And in Australia, there is no treaty of Waitangi. There is no modified social welfare. There are no race-based extra privileges or rights given to us as Māori over there. There are none. And I think that's something that needs to be taken aware of. So when we bring this over here, we need to be able to speak about these things. I mean, the freedom convoy, and that's why we're talking about this, because it's Remembrance Day, and I'm just heading along to the domain to help cover the Freedom and Rights Coalition Remembrance Day celebration. That we have to be able to talk about this, because even now there is a strong suppression on even being able to talk about Pfizer, talk about the vaccine, talk about the authoritarianism of the government. It's still much a very chilled effect. Most New Zealanders just don't want to pretend like it didn't happen, and they want to just move forward. They don't want to talk about it. There is a sense of coming up from an abusive relationship. That's what it really feels like. And I've spent enough time with our at-risk families to know what the feel, the vibe is like. And that's exactly what it is on our streets. Because a lot of the Kiwis don't want to speak about the fact that they chose to be compliant and meek when they really know that they should not have been, that they should have asked more questions. Which is why when they're talking about, no, we just want to get forward, we don't want to talk about this crap, we just want to move forward. But when they say that, there's a strong sense that there's an element of shame. And we need to, I think we need to face up to that there is an element of shame with those who don't want to speak about it. You've still got the adherents, and it's fascinating that most of the adherents, the advocates, the advocates for the Pfizer or the whatever the vaccine was, the mRNA, the government authoritarianism, those ones who back that, it's extraordinary to see that they tend to belong to the ideology who are happy for growth in government. What I mean is they hold an ideological position on things. Whereas those of us who question, who want to discuss it, who want to be allowed to bring it up, they're all types of people. And it's interesting that they tend to be quite patriotic as well. So those who stood against the mandates, those who were speaking out, even costing their jobs, costing their roles, costing their social license, costing them accusations and smears from the New Zealand mainstream media, they loved New Zealand. And I would say the word is they loved. They had a emotional sentimentality towards their nation. Whereas we find that those who were pushing for it do not. They expressly do not. If we look at the Prime Minister at the time, Jacinda Ardern, she, of course, fled the country. Well, it's probably wrong of me to say the word fled, but she left the country very quickly. And not only that, she gave up very quickly as well. As in, when it became clear that she had lost the adoration of the New Zealand public, she very quickly stopped and left. She left over, I believe it was, over 6 months before the election. And now, of course, she's taken a very nice amount. I believe she's getting like $200,000 every time she speaks in the US leftist institutes, which is fine, not a problem. But it is extraordinary that people still hold to this, I think, faith-based belief that she was patriotic for the country, that she was good for the country. Objectively speaking, she was not good for the country. I would argue that she was the worst Prime Minister in New Zealand history. And all of the people, the Remembrance Days themselves, people who were brave enough to go to jail, like Brian Tamaki, they are all expressions of a democracy, of a group, of a nation that was groaning beneath the heel of authoritarianism. To go further, I believe that Jacinda Ardern is empathetic. I believe that. The problem with that is that can lead to extremely brutal policy making. And I think it's unintentional, but what was amazing is that she, as a socialist, and again I say that because there is clear evidence and objective material out there to state that she is, but her policies were very, very against what we see in democracy, the democratic principles. So I'm trying to remember the name, the public safety of COVID-19 bill, that bill that she made, it effectively brought power into her as prime minister. It was extraordinary. No other prime minister has ever collected by law power unto her or himself. And she was able to effect that with that law. She was able to bring in law that made it effectively that a health institute could mandate you to go into a bus and go down into an area tent or into a mass a mass medical center, and then have medical treatments put upon that person. That was in the law. It was never used, thank God, but I think it could have been close to it. The select committees that were sliced down to the barest. One thing I have to say about the TPB, the Treaty Principles Bill, is that months have been assigned to hearing select committee. Months and months. So they're given appropriate. But in the gun confiscation and the gun bans and in the abortion liberalization and there was none. Not none. They were thinned down to weeks only, and it was extraordinary the circumnavigating of the principles around democracy on that. The reason, also another one, and I say this again because we're in Remembrance Day. We're thinking about the freedom. We're thinking about democracy and ideologies that go to underpin it. Socialism is a fascinating ideology because it doesn't work. There is no example of socialism in the history of mankind where it has worked ever, and yet it was during the COVID pandemic era that many socialistic policies were put in place. Now, New Zealand, I think we mixed up socialism with fascism. And no, I'm not talking about long coats and swastikas. What I'm referring to is the ideology of fascism, which is very much a centralized government, more power to the government, very, very close relationship with a small circle of several big business accounts, so that government doesn't take over the manufacturing and the transaction services, but rather they have very close connection with it to the point where they'll regulate strongly in favor of what they want. And of course, the removal of different areas of free society. So cutting down of free speech, and you saw that with the push for the Christchurch call and the anti-free speech laws that Labour were trying to bring in. The select committees, the signing of democratic processes, the new bills, the new amendments that effectively gave Labour and before that Ms Ardern the significant levels of power, unprecedented levels of power before. As in outside of peacetime, outside of wartime, the most power ever given. It was extraordinary. And so that's why I say that Jacinda Ardern engaged in a leadership that had mixes of socialism and fascism engaged in principle. We have to be able to talk about that in a way that doesn't lead to anyone screaming at each other about this, about you're hateful, you're bigoted. Right? We've got to be able to talk about this. We cannot fix anything. unless we are ready to talk the hard truth, to engage in talanoa sao, to engage in strong korero, straight talk. We've got to be able to really say things that are going to make each other uncomfortable. Otherwise, we won't get there. So the last few days have led me to decide something, and that is, I think we are going to start engaging. We've tried this before, but it hasn't worked because the other side, I apologise, I do say the other side. The Daily Examiner is quite conservative. We're a conservative outlet, we're a conservative group. It's how we tend to be. Not all of our crew are, but the majority are. So we're going to engage in effectively going out there and asking those of opposing ideologies to really engage and let's have a good, strong chat about it. We'll do some stuff online. I've been talking around, and yes, Gaza is my first one, so I've pretty much confirmed a discussion around the Hamas and Israel war and all the pieces of it, so we can have a dialogue, so we can speak out. And if we're going to engage in scary things, good things, uncomfortable things, the good, bad, and the ugly, then we can have a real proper chat about that. So that's something that we want to talk about. And so on Remembrance Day, one of the things that we are also seeing is out there is the pushing for freedom of speech, the allowance to speak freely. That if the crews here want to discuss the mRNA vaccine, that are not looked upon, they're not spat upon by the New Zealand mainstream media, that are not just, when we had the misinformation project, and they were a very weaponized form of the government arm. They received a great deal of funding from the taxpayer. They worked heavily to smear, and as we found out later, falsely smear the different freedom groups with ideas around bigots and racists and misogynists, transphobes, homophobes, all the phobes came out. So Remembrance Day is about that. That's what I've been discussing. I'm going to see if we can talk to some of the rallies, especially when we get to the domain. It'll be good to have just a bit of a chat and see what they feel about the day. See if they can also give us answers as well as to what they're doing here. I think that's an important one, so that we can find out if the protesters themselves know what they're doing. As I was saying earlier, about an hour ago now, about an hour and a half ago when we first started, the difference between the Māori Party protests and the Freedom Convoy was that the Freedom Convoy were very unified and very sure as to what they were doing on the convoy. Whereas the Māori Party protest, there's a lot of differing thoughts as to what they're there for, to the point where some of them are just there for, I saw some Gaza flags, some Hamas flags. I've seen a lot of Tino Rangatiratanga flags. But there are differing ideologies and thoughts in there. But they don't know what they're doing there. Most of the crew there are there for each other, or they're there for standing up for Māori rights and tuitu, te tiriti, but they don't know quite what that means. So when you ask them about the bill, Barry Soper asked someone about what they were there for and what the bill was about. That person ended up telling Barry Soper to F off. Well, first off, he asked him if he spoke Māori, and Barry Soper said, "No, I don't." That person in the Māori Party protest is basically told him to F off. Whereas if you ask the Freedom Convoy, I'm very confident that they'll tell you exactly why. We're moving along now. Traffic is heavy, and I believe it is heavy mostly because of the Freedom and Coalition's movement. Okay, so here's a great one up on the bridge. As we drive past, you might see it. There's something in there saying "Stop the Genocide," and it is with a Tino Rangatiratanga flag. So up here again, now this would not be part of the Freedom Rights Coalition, but, well, I suspect not anyway. So I'm having a look here, "Stop the Genocide," and there's a Tino Rangatiratanga flag underneath. There is, of course, no, and I suspect it's a pro-Hamas flag. Let's see, "End mass murder," and utilising the Palestinian flag. So you've got "Stop the Genocide," "End mass murder," and the Tino Rangatiratanga flag alongside the Palestinian flag. They don't have a Hamas flag. It's an interesting one. So that's always an interesting one. The ideas around Israel genocide. Now, I'm just going to speak on facts. Whichever side of the fence you sit on, the fact is that Israel's not committing a genocide because Israel have the capacity to have a genocide. They can sweep. Gaza is quite a small location. If Israel were going to commit a genocide, it's quite simple for them to do so. They've got the means. They totally can. They've got enough bombs, guns, and soldiers to fully pull out a genocide and wipe them off the map. They've got that power, but they don't. That's I think what is something which is a noted one. So when we do have our Israel Hamas debate, I think that's going to be an important one to bring up and talk about it. My understanding is under the UN numbers, the idea of what's acceptable. Now, the UN doesn't say this. I don't say this. No one says this. No one says that any civilian casualties are good. None. No one says that. Everyone hates civilian casualties. We can't stand it. Well, I think there's an argument for some groups. Some groups might like it because of the press that it gives them. We've got another bridge up here. The bridge up here's got IDF murder machine. They've got Tino Rangatiratanga flags, and they've got Palestinian flags again. So again, it's not logical. It doesn't hold up under the scrutiny of empirical data. Israel is very capable of performing a genocide if they wanted to, but they don't. That's the thing. Even the numbers of the casualties, we all know that casualties are so heartbreaking in times of war. We also know that casualties by citizenry in war, that's what happens. But the numbers are far less than what the UN determines is. Not sure what the term is. It's not unacceptable because all of them are unacceptable, but they're just not. IDF murder machine, Tino Rangatiratanga flags. As we go under the bridge, you'll see it on the left-hand side on your video. It's got permanent ceasefire. Now that's interesting because it was Hamas who broke the ceasefire on the 7th of October. There was already a ceasefire in place when the Hamas terrorists came over from Gaza and slaughtered those families, the festival goers, all those people, the men, women, and children in their homes. They were found. That was a ceasefire that they broke. So they broke that ceasefire. The fact that they seem to be calling for a ceasefire now is quite interesting. Yeah. So let's see. Random. We are New Zealand. No Israel-Palestine flags in our country. New Zealand first. Yeah. I tend to agree. I think New Zealand should come first. Not in a brutal way, but we should advocate for things to calm down. So there you go. There's the flags, all that underneath. And I do agree, Random, that if I can put that up without being illegal, nice. And I do agree that New Zealand should come first. That's the way we can do it. So we're now cruising across the Grafton Bridge. This is in the Auckland CBD. Auckland, coming up to Auckland CBD. We're crossing over Newmarket. It's a lovely day here, very lovely day, very sunny day. We had a lot of rain here in Auckland yesterday, as you know. Yep, more cars behind me. Oh, there's a truck here. Make New Zealand great again. Yeah, another one that I'll just remind again. When New Zealand mainstream media report, if, and that is a massive if they report on the Remembrance Day, the groups conducting the Remembrance Days, you will find that it will be negative or mocking in tone. So the New Zealand mainstream media, excuse me, the New Zealand mainstream media will engage in negative publicity, whereas for the Māori Party protest, they will engage in positivity. So they will look at it in a positive light. And that, unfortunately, is indicative of where the New Zealand mainstream media are at this time. They're not, unfortunately, they have taken sides. They took sides during the Ardern government. They very much were noted to be shielding and supporting the Ardern government and Ardern herself. They also really support and are defending the Māori Party protest. So that's extraordinary as well. Now we've got police here. Police have started to stop them, stop groups here. Traffic management is now here as well. They're trying to provide some type of logistical coordination of the groups. We are driving past a lot of the convoy here. All right. So here's where the convoy is. Yeah, you'll find there's nothing but just a flood of New Zealand flags going on. These are the flags also that our tupuna, our ancestors, our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers fought in World War One, World War Two. They fought underneath this banner, and even alongside the Anzacs. They fought along underneath this banner as well. Some people have made mentions as to why some people put the New Zealand flag upside down. That is the international sign of distress. And so in those times where the Ardern government was engaging in some shocking levels of authoritarianism, sometimes some of the freedom protesters would put the flag upside down to show that New Zealand itself was in a time of distress, was in need of assistance. We are now moving into the CBD area. We're going to go into the ports system. We're going to see if we can do a little sneaky, go around the back. Oh, wait, sorry. Decided to change. Don't want Port, we want Wellesley. So, yeah, we are looking at, we're going to start getting our debates. We've asked different people to come on, and, you know, some of them will be very sensible. Some of them are going to be quite unhinged. We know this, and that's okay. We, as conservatives, we want to be able to have a platform where all sides get to have a say without being screamed at or run down by others. So we want to make sure that we're in control of that as well, so that we give a proper amount of speaking time to each. So the first one that we've got under the belt, we've got pretty much 90% of it is all good to go. And that one is going to be the Hamas versus Israel elements, talking about anything from casualties, October 7. So we want to be able to have these discussions, be able to speak about things that would be awkward, that the New Zealand mainstream media do not engage in, or at least from a balanced point of view anyway. We're now starting to move into the domain. Yeah, lovely day. Looks like a nice day. Picnics going on. See Scissor lifts in the future, so it looks like it's a nice Auckland day today. She looks like it's a little bit breezy. Just for all those crews out there who are in Remembrance Day, it sounds odd saying the word celebration. That's probably not the best way to describe it, but I think there is a part there that can be celebrated from those crews, that they were able to stand firm, that they were very brave in terms of standing against the government itself, a government that was very much mistreating them. We're in the domain now, and of course this is where the Auckland War Memorial Museum is. We've got the cenotaph there that is the place where we remember our fallen soldiers who fought underneath the New Zealand flag. And that's why it's interesting that I'm sort of been here to help cover the Freedom and Rights Coalition Remembrance Day event, because it's a very much a Christian, conservative, Kiwi group. Most of those warriors who fought underneath the flag in World War I, World War II, even those in the Vietnam War, Korea, were mostly, the vast majority of them were Christian, were conservative, were family men. And the woman who served alongside them in the nursing areas, looking after wherever they could look after. There are reports of such brave women in those times of war who would seek just to keep on helping when the bombs were falling around them. Some of them died tending to the wounded. Here we go, moving up into this area here. That is on the left hand side, that's the museum. Police are in attendance. Also looks like we have looks like we've got a lone, I think that's a Palestinian flag there. You've got groupings. I can see here also you've got volunteers. As I was saying in the hours before, that there's a very significant organisation around the order, civility of these marches. It's very much a shame that the New Zealand police tend to take a dimmer view of these groups rather than looking at others. It's, again, the treatment has been very, very different. One of our people, as you know, one of our people did up a meme which showed the difference, that you had one where on the Māori Party protest, they're hongying, singing with the Māori Party protesters, but on the other side, when it was in the Freedom Convoy, you've got them standing, full board standing on the head of a child. So more of the Te Rangatira flags, this one by some of the gang members in there. So there are also some other people who seem to not be part, but they seem to be making their way here as well. So not sure if that's for distraction or obfuscation, but that's the thing about a protest. And as I'm driving past, something that I am really noticing already, I have seen Māori, I have seen Chinese, some Koreans, seen Indians just now. And what I'm saying is the Freedom Convoy, the Freedom March, and today, the Remembrance Day by Freedom Rights Coalition, it's all ethnicities. There are different ages here. There are elderly, and this is just me driving through, so I haven't been able to park up yet because I can't find a park. So really good to see. So there's a lot of the crews here. They've got the Man Up t-shirts as well. Man Up itself is an organisation that came from Destiny Church. Very, very significant group because there are Man Up is the male version, and I believe Legacy is the female version. Man Up is well known for being able to have previously very violent offenders, some which the system had just given up on, and these men have now engaged in families. They're looking after their children, looking after their wives, looking after their people. Man Up is very well respected. Again, they might have some strong political disagreements, but Man Up is a group that has had a phenomenal record of success. And it's very real. It's a very real world style of success as well. So we're moving along here. And we might just see if we can sneak a little park along here, actually. There's a picture, great little kid there who's got his little New Zealand flag out there. It's really nice to see. Checking in, making sure that I'm going to be in a safe position. I think that's okay. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to leave you now. I'm going to see if I can get set up and then have a little bit of a look around and see if we can talk to some of the people here for Remembrance Day and see if we get some good straight answers. It's important to have these kōrero, these discussions about this. So for now, have a great one. Let's have a look there. Oh, there's one last. And I apologize, our Facebook comments don't seem to be going through for some reason. So there's one here from Random again. Rumor has it Elliot is going to see tiny mode on the Palestinian process. Hey, oi. So yeah, maybe we'll have a little chat there. Yeah, I always love the idea of talking. So if I do find some people who are against this rally, then it could be quite good to get to engage in that. All right, so I'm going to go. Might find a cup of coffee, maybe a hot dog, and then we'll see you back real soon. All right, so look, everyone, have a great one. Whether you support the Remembrance Day, whether you're against it, one of the great things about a free society is that you're allowed to have that opinion. So we'll see you again real soon. Actually, we'll see you again real soon. All right, everyone, ka kite.